I'm going to just give a quick overview about high sensitivity. Feel free to interrupt me or ask any questions. This is in all of the material anyway, so I'm not going to spend too long talking through it because I think what's more important is we go through the actual process. So yeah, for me, before I heard about the term, the highly sensitive person, I definitely felt my whole life this sense of feeling misunderstood and feeling that I was alone, very much alone in the way that I interpreted or perceived the world around me and how I processed information. So, in terms of having a label, I don't like to put people into a box, and I don't like to say, being highly sensitive is a specific box that we have to squeeze ourselves into. But I just think it helps us to really appreciate that we're not alone and that there are these common traits that we all share. And the more we can build awareness about these traits, the more we can understand and learn how to navigate the world. So that's really what it's about. So yeah, the research has shown us that 1 in 5 people are highly sensitive. So that's 20% of the population, which is quite significant, really. That's, billions of people around the world. And it's actually found equally in men and women. So I think it's harder for men to identify being highly sensitive because there's so much stigma associated with that word. But it is as common as men in men as in women. So there's a lot of neurobiological explanations for being sensitive. So we do have these innate traits that we're born with. But what I'm going to talk about in a minute is just how important our environment is for how our sensitivity is expressed. So some of the common traits include being highly intuitive, sensitive to our environment. We're naturally very empathetic and compassionate. We tend to be very connected to nature. We have this deep and diverse emotional landscape. So we feel our emotions often to the extreme. So that means we can be prone to overwhelm, burnout, anxiety when we're in more toxic or challenging environments. But I find this really interesting, and this is really what this course is all about. When we're in positive or nourishing environments, we actually thrive more than the average person. So we're more likely to excel and succeed in life when we have the right conditions in place. So I'm not sure if you've come across this before, but Dr. Elaine Aron, who wrote the book, The Highly Sensitive Person, she came up with this acronym, DOES, the DOES of sensitivity. So this is a really easy way to remember what it means to be highly sensitive. So we have the depth of processing, the tendency to be overstimulated. So our nervous system, gets easily overstimulated by noise, overwhelm, lots of busyness and things around us. Empathy. So it's been found that we have more mirror neurons in our brain, which are responsible for empathy. So that means that when we see another person in pain, or if we see another person having an emotional experience, we're more likely to feel that in our bodies. So that can be emotional or physical pain. And I experience this when I'm watching films or TV. If I see someone get hurt, I have that physical reaction in my body as well. So that is a trait of being highly sensitive. And then the last one is sensitivity to subtleties. So yeah, we notice things in our internal and external environment, like really subtle changes that other people won't notice. And I think that's why, we can be more prone to if we're not well, as an example, we'll really notice that. Whereas some people might not notice that their body's not in sync or that's something not right. So I think that relates to, Leah, to gut health as well, that we might notice more of those subtle changes that are going on in the body. So I'm just going to talk briefly about the struggles that we can experience, and then we're going to go into the strengths, because that's what I want to focus on. So again, I'd be interested to know which of these you relate to. So from my work over the past couple of years and through my research, these are the ones that seem to come up the most. So struggling with conflict, not wanting to embrace or have arguments with people, avoiding conflict, not wanting to see it, not wanting to see violence. Difficulties setting boundaries. So I found a lot of sensitive people that I work with struggle to say no to things, struggle to assert themselves, feel bad, take on too much, and then end up feeling exhausted or burnt out. And that leads to the overwhelm. So again, similar to what we've been talking about, because we're so attuned to our environment and our senses are picking up information all the time, our nervous system just becomes really overwhelmed quite quickly. So we do need a lot of space in between things. We do need more sleep. We do need more downtime. And that's something which I feel we need to learn to put into our schedules and know it's okay to have that. It's okay to have more sleep than the average person if that's what we need. So yeah, feeling misunderstood, I think we've spoken about that. A tendency to overthink, and that's because of our depth of processing. So that can lead to stress, anxiety, and burnout if we're not aware of it and we're not working with it. And then, physical pain and illness. So I found a lot of sensitive people have a lot of migraines, physical pain, fibromyalgia is common. I think that's a really interesting one because I do think that's a lot of psychosomatic pain that's occurring because we have so many emotions and thoughts that we're trying to process. It can then manifest in the body. And so if we have a lack of sleep or we change our diet or routine, we're also more likely to be impacted by it.
There's also an area of the insula that is actually responsible for pain, hunger, and fatigue sensitivity. So I think those all three kind of tie into this physical pain and illness factor. Because I think the insula is kind of the defining, one of the defining features of the HSP brain is that higher insula activation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you go into that in your workshop, don't you, Leah, from what I remember?
Yeah, and I've cleaned it up, so it's more approachable.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, because I know I haven't included that in this workshop, but it is really interesting to look at the different areas of the brain and what's actually happening. So, okay, so what I was sharing earlier was about vantage sensitivity. So vantage sensitivity is basically the idea that, when we have the right resources, tools, environmental conditions in place, we will thrive, we will actually excel more than the average person. So basically, there was a study done where it was actually with teenage girls where they were treated for depression. And they found that the sensitive girls they responded to the treatment more than girls who were non-sensitive. So basically, their ability to respond to interventions was higher than those who were non-sensitive. And they found that in other areas as well. So if we receive therapy, counseling, coaching, or we receive interventions, we will thrive more than someone who's not sensitive. So I find that really interesting.
Well, and it also depends too on the therapist themselves, right? Like if they accept the trait.
Exactly. And that's really what it's about. So we're not trying to fix or get rid of the traits. We're trying to embrace them and learn how to cultivate them, actually. So these are some of the gifts that we have. Some of these I've already mentioned, but the empathy, the compassion, our intuition, connection to the spiritual. So over the next 8 weeks, as we go through the course, we'll touch upon this as well. So we have this ability to access states which go beyond the individual ego. We can access altered and expansive states more easily than other people. And that links as well to, let me just skip ahead a minute. We have this vivid inner world. We have an ability to visualize. We have vivid dreams. So next week, next Wednesday, Lana is going to be talking about how to lucid dream and how we can use lucid dreams to manifest things in our life. And the work she does is really, really powerful. It's really incredible. So we have an advantage because our inner world is so vivid and we have such a strong imagination. And often, again, you know, when I think back to education and schools, Shima, I don't know if you find this with your children, but often, you know, the gift of intuition or imagination or the ability to visualize isn't always cultivated in children. It's often the intellectual mind that is seen as being more important than intuition or the more creative side of things. So I think, definitely. yeah, it's important to acknowledge those as gifts. Which links to, our ability to lead as well. We make really good leaders. We're good at running businesses. We are aware of opportunities. We can manifest projects and ideas as well. And that's what we'll talk about later in the course. So Rachel and Willow are going to talk about how to excel as a leader or how to thrive running your own business and stepping into those skills, which will be really interesting. So I really love this quote from Elaine Aron, who said, "We were created by the divine in order to bear witness to or guide others to the numinous." And what this is really talking about is this idea that we were born into this world with a purpose, and that purpose being we're here to serve or guide other people. And that could look many different ways, but that we do have a purpose. So all of these traits that we're talking about, they are here to be channeled. We're here to channel them and do something with them. And so, you know, not everyone might believe in a higher power or spirituality, but I think however you want to define that, this idea that we do have a purpose in life is something most of us can relate to. So this is basically the model that I've developed over the past few years working with sensitive people. So over the next 8 weeks, in all of the different modules and content that you're going to be learning, it's integrative because we're looking at the mind, the body, the spirit. We're also looking at our emotions and the soul as well, and also integrating our shadow. So I've broken it into 8 different domains, and there's no particular order to these domains apart from we're working with the body, so the individual person, and then we're looking at the interpersonal, so our relationships with ourselves, others, and the world, and then we're looking at the spiritual dimension. So the first tool that we're looking at this week is about mindful awareness. And I believe this is fundamental to everything. When we can have this mindful awareness in our day-to-day life, when we can learn how to be present in the moment, when we can observe and create some distance between ourselves and what we're experiencing. So this is a practice that we need to cultivate and really practice every day. And then the next one is about connecting with ourselves and setting healthy boundaries. So the idea being that we have a core self, which is like, I think of it like an internal sun, or this core center that is always there, and it's strong and it's grounded and it's present. And we can learn to connect with that and then set healthy boundaries around ourselves. So we learn how to discern when to say no to things, when to say yes to things. So we're going to look at that in the second week. And then the third week is about reframing our beliefs. So instead of seeing sensitivity as a weakness or a flaw, we learn how to see it as a strength and as a gift. And we need to go back to our childhood to look at how we reframe these beliefs. So where did these beliefs come from that maybe sensitivity is a weakness? And then the next domain is about self-compassion. And I find this is so important for sensitive people because we're really good at giving out compassion to other people, but we can struggle to offer it to ourselves. And that includes self-care practices as well. So really looking at how we can integrate self-care into our day-to-day lives. So the next one is about authentic communication. So yeah, how do we communicate our feelings and needs when we are in conflict with other people, or when we are struggling to speak up for our needs and wants? So we have a whole week looking at that. And then, as I mentioned earlier, being able to access these expansive and altered states can be really, really powerful for our healing and our well-being. So this is where we connect more into the spiritual dimension. So we practice something called open awareness, where we learn how to connect with this collective consciousness that we're all part of, and we see what kind of insights that brings to us. So the next one is about aligning with our values. So when we are clear on what our values are and what is meaningful to us, then we can stay connected to our purpose. So it's really important that we're clear what is important to us and what our values are. Otherwise, we're going to go off on a tangent and maybe not living in alignment with our authentic selves. And then the last one is about integrating the shadows. So this is a really interesting one because the shadow is basically the part of us that we don't want to look at always, or the part of us that we don't want to integrate or acknowledge. So that could be, for example, thinking that it's wrong to have anger or express anger. And so when we look at those emotions or feelings that we feel we shouldn't have, and learn to accept them and have compassion for them, we can then learn to integrate them into ourselves. And this is about bringing ourselves to a greater wholeness and well-being. So the last week of this course is all about integrating the shadow and learning how to embrace the parts of ourselves that we don't want to acknowledge, or the parts that we don't like about ourselves. So it's actually really, really important work. So we're going to do a process now. And I'm going to ask you for some parts of this to close your eyes and connect with your body like we did at the beginning. And then there'll be some parts where if you need to, if you have a pen and paper, you can actually write down what comes up for you, because I'm going to ask you about limiting beliefs, values, things like that. So you might want to take notes so you remember what comes up for you. So just gonna skip those parts. Okay. So yeah, when you're ready, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes again, and I'll guide you through everything. So just following my instructions. So just take a few deep breaths. And bringing mindful awareness to your body, just noticing what's present in your internal and external landscape. Noticing what's in your mind, what thoughts are present. So I want you to bring to your awareness something you're struggling with, or something you want to transform and let go of. So this could be in any area of your life, could be related to family, business, work, health, relationships. There might be many things coming into your awareness, but see if you can pick just one thing you want to transform or let go of. Something that's not serving you any longer. So once you have that in your awareness, ask yourself what you believe to be true about making this change or letting this go. And see if you can identify 2 or 3 limiting beliefs, which might be stopping you from making this change. So maybe something like it's too difficult to do this, or I will have to work really hard to make this change. So see if there's any limiting beliefs coming up for you. If you need to make a note of those, you can do. So now we've identified what we want to change or transform and the beliefs surrounding that change. We're just going to connect with what is beyond those beliefs. We're going to connect with our core self. So with our strengths, our gifts, the essence of who you really are. So this core self is connected to your will, to your ability to create change. So just notice what this energy feels like, the energy of your core self, the energy of your will. So from this place where you're connected with your core gifts and strengths, I want you to set an intention for what you want to be present, for what you want to manifest. And with this, what new beliefs are you ready to embody? Next, connecting with your values. So why is this change so important to you? What is it you're working towards? And see if you can see what this looks like for you in your mind's eye. And what it feels like, what emotions are present when you imagine working towards what's really important to you and stepping into your purpose. So we're now going to just take that intention and take a moment to expand that intention outwards. So imagining that your consciousness, your awareness is expanding in all directions and connecting with what is beyond your individual body. And as you expand your awareness, notice the source that supports you in this change. So the source that you are connected to. And I want you to imagine that this change, or the thing you're wanting to manifest, is not a future scenario, but it's happening right now. So in this moment, what's going on for you? What do you see around you? What are you doing? So in this open and expansive state, you're imagining what you want to manifest is happening right now in this moment. Try and make that image as strong as you can and feel it in your body. Feel the emotion associated with that happening in this very moment. Now I want you to take this image and the emotion and turn it into one symbol. So see if you can imagine or visualize a symbol. It could be a letter or a shape with a specific color that represents what it is you're wanting to change, transform, or manifest. So make that symbol as bright and strong as you can in your mind's eye. Once you have that symbol, you've chosen your symbol and you can see it. I simply want you to let that symbol go. We're just going to Surrender now. And let this greater intelligence we're a part of allow our intention to manifest. So once you have let it go, there's nothing else you need to do. We're just going to take a moment to rest in a space of gratitude. So just offering compassion to yourself for your willingness to set an intention to create change. So offering yourself compassion for being willing to show up and work on your healing, your transformation. And then lastly, just thinking of an action or a step, a small step or something you can do to bring this change, to start the process of change, to bring it into reality. And just ask, is there anything that needs to be communicated? Is there anything that needs to be said? Perhaps a commitment to yourself or a request from someone else around you. And then once you have that small step or something which needs to be communicated to yourself or to someone else, if you need to write that down, you can write that down or just hold on to it in your mind. And then we're just going to take a few deep breaths. And in your own time, if your eyes are closed, just slowly opening them again, just coming back into the present moment. Okay, so I'd like to give you a moment to share or ask any questions or let me know what came up for you. I'll upload the slides and this recording and everything. So if you need to go through this process again to get some more clarity, you can. And also, yeah, I'm going to encourage, obviously, there was quite a few people who couldn't make it this evening, but I'm going to encourage everyone to just introduce themselves on the forum, on when you log in to my website on the forum. So if you want to introduce yourselves and share, any questions that are coming up for you around this or what came up today, then I'd be happy to respond to the comments, and also we can get a conversation going as well.